Welcome to our deep dive into Katherine Rundell's The Explorer.
Oh, this is going to be good.
We've got stacks of research like summaries, reviews,
Yeah.
even stuff about Rundell's own life.
Wow, that's thorough.
And we're going to unearth all the exciting parts for you.
Unpack it all.
Exactly. The heart-stopping moments, the themes that make you think, those unexpected connections. We'll uncover it all.
It's like we're putting together a puzzle, right, to understand what makes this book so captivating.
Totally. So first, we'll figure out why The Explorer is so gripping, like why people can't put it down.
Okay,
Then we'll dig into the deeper stuff, the themes that make it more than just an adventure.
I like it.
And of course, we have to tackle that big question. Does it live up to the hype?
The hype is huge.
It is. So Rundell doesn't waste any time. Right from the start, it's bam, a plane crash in the Amazon.
No easing into it, huh?
Nope. What's your take on this opening? How does she hook the reader instantly?
It's that rawness that you're right there with those kids, feeling the fear, the chaos. But it's not just any jungle, it's the Amazon. And Rundell makes you feel how dangerous it is. Poisonous snakes, piranhas, like everywhere.
Oh, yeah. She doesn't hold back on the intensity.
It's a truly unforgiving place.
You said it. And you're thrown right into it. It's like being dropped into one of those survival documentaries, but with kids.
Right. And yet, even though they're terrified, they're not totally helpless. They manage to build a fire and even a raft.
They're pretty resourceful.
Rundell balances their vulnerability with this incredible resilience. It's a tough situation, but they're trying.
And then there's, of course, Abacaxi.
Oh, the baby sloth.
It's such a perfect touch. Things are intense, but then you have this adorable sloth. It adds some warmth, you know?
Yeah, and even humor. Like, even in the darkest situations, there can be those little moments of joy. Connection, even.
Right, it reminds you of that. So, okay, we have these kids stranded, learning to survive, but they're not alone for long. Enter the Explorer.
He's a bit of an enigma, isn't he?
Absolutely. What surprised you about him? Why is he hiding out in a lost city deep in the Amazon?
Well, he's not your typical hero type. I mean, he's actually really distrustful of outsiders, almost hostile when he first meets the kids. He's carrying a lot of baggage.
Baggage.
Yeah, like he lost his family in the jungle, so he's isolated himself in this ancient city, almost like he's guarding it.
So he doesn't exactly welcome the kids with open arms.
Definitely not. There's a lot of tension in those early scenes. He sees them as intruders, messing with the balance he's created.
Makes sense. He's been alone for so long.
Right. But eventually he softens up a bit, right?
He does. Becomes a sort of, reluctant mentor.
It's gradual, which makes it feel real. He sees how resilient they are, how much they want to learn to survive. So she starts teaching them things. Tracking, finding food, even how to make those poison darts.
That's a lot to take in.
Oh, yeah. He becomes their guide in this completely foreign world.
It's like he's passing on his knowledge.
Absolutely. But even as he does that, there's this whole other side to him. Remember that forbidden room in his house? It's like, what's in there? What's he hiding?
It's definitely a reminder that he has secrets. Like something big from his past he doesn't want to share.
Keeps you guessing. Okay, so let's shift gears for a minute and talk about the kids themselves. What really stood out to me was how they each brought something different to the group. They weren't just a bunch of lost kids.
They were definitely distinct characters.
Right. Each one has their own struggles, their own complexities. Like Fred, he's the classic aspiring explorer.
Always looking for his dad's approval.
Exactly. Wants to follow in his footsteps. But Rundell makes him feel real, you know. He has his anxieties, his insecurities.
Right. And then there's Con. She's kind of prickly at first, but then the Explorer calls her a Lionheart. What do you think about that? Is that foreshadowing or?
I think it's more than that. I mean, Con might seem like a grumpy teenager, but there's more to her than that. And her photographic memory, it's not just a random detail. It becomes really important for their survival.
Oh, yeah. She's the one who remembers the map. The one who can recall details about the jungle.
It's like knowledge is power, even when it comes from someone like Con. And Leela, she's the quiet one, the healer.
But there's always more to characters than meets the eye.
Right. And with Leela, she has this deep respect for the Amazon, this connection. She's not just patching them up physically, but also emotionally.
Providing comfort in a very chaotic situation.
Exactly. And Max, the little one, he brings this whole other dimension to the story. Why do you think his illness is such a turning point?
It definitely raises the stakes. Like suddenly everything's more urgent.
It forces the explorer to reveal his secret, remember? The airplane. And he has to teach Fred how to fly.
Whoa. High stakes indeed.
It's like Rundell is showing us that survival isn't just about being strong on your own. It's about caring for each other, even when things are tough.
That's a good point. And it leads us nicely into the themes of the book, because it's clear that the explorer isn't just about surviving the jungle. There's a lot more going on. What stands out to you as the main themes?
Well, survival is the obvious one, but Rundle makes it more than just about finding food and shelter. It's about emotions. Fear, despair, but also that strength to keep going even when things seem hopeless. It's about those little wins. Building the fire, catching a fish, finding something beautiful when everything's scary. Like, even when things are bad, there's always something worth fighting for.
And the theme of friendship and love even runs throughout the whole thing. It's not just between the kids, it's with the explorer too. How do you see that relationship changing as the story goes on?
It's a really great example of how, when you go through something intense together, it can break down walls, create unexpected bonds. The kids see past the explorer's tough exterior. They see the pain he's carrying, and he sees their innocence, how strong they are, their potential.
It shows how we can connect with people in the most unlikely places, doesn't it? Find understanding even when things seem impossible.
Exactly. And speaking of hope, the lost city itself is like the symbol of hope, isn't it?
It is. It's like a beacon, right, in the middle of this vast wilderness, a sign that they're not totally alone.
Exactly. And it's where they meet the explorer, which changes everything.
It's a turning point for sure, but it also reminds you of how humans can destroy things. This amazing city, just lost and forgotten.
That's one of the things Rundell does so well. She puts these contrasting ideas together: hope and destruction, beauty and danger. And it makes you think about how we treat the environment, our impact on the world. What will we leave behind?
Good point. It's not just an adventure story, it's about bigger things too, like self-discovery. Each of the kids changes during their time in the jungle. Is there one character whose journey stands out to you?
Common. She starts out so skeptical, so quick to judge, but as the story goes on, you see her change. She lets her guard down, and that photographic memory, it becomes essential. It's like the jungle strips away everything, and she's forced to confront who she really is.
She finds her strength. And Rundle weaves this idea of knowledge as power throughout the whole book. The explorer teaches the kids, but they also learn from their own experiences, from watching things, from trying things out.
It's not just being told stuff. It's about figuring things out for yourself. Do you remember that part where Fred figures out how to get honey by watching the monkeys?
Oh yeah, with the ant paste, right. That was a good one.
He uses what he sees to survive. Rundle is showing us that learning isn't just about classrooms. It's about being curious, about paying attention to the world around you, and trying things out.
It's about being an active participant in your own life.
Yes.
We've talked about survival, about friendship, self-discovery, even our relationship with the planet. But there's another theme I think we should touch on: the power of stories themselves.
Oh, interesting. How do you see that playing out in the book?
Well, stories are everywhere, right? Fred's obsessed with explorers, wants to be like them. The explorer tells them about his past, and then there are all the myths and legends they share around the campfire.
You're right. They provide comfort, guidance, a way to connect, especially when everything else feels chaotic and unpredictable.
It's like stories become a tool for survival. They help the kids process what they're going through, their fears, and they help them imagine a future, a way out.
They give them hope, that's a good way to put it. A reminder that even when things are dark, the human spirit can endure. And for the explorer, stories are how he connects with the kids, shares his wisdom, his warnings, his love for the jungle.
And we can't forget about Rundle's storytelling either. Her writing is so vivid, so immersive, you really feel like you're right there with them.
Oh, absolutely. She has this gift for capturing the beauty and danger of the Amazon, the heat, the humidity, the feeling of being surrounded by this wild, vibrant, sometimes scary world.
It's definitely not just a backdrop. The jungle is like a character in itself.
For sure. And she doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. Remember the scene with the bullet ants? Not for the faint of heart.
Nope. It's those realistic moments that make the story so powerful. You're reminded that the stakes are high, that nature is a force to be reckoned with.
It's not just reading about an adventure, it's like you're experiencing it with them.
So let's shift gears a bit and talk about Katherine Rundell herself. I mean, we know she's an award-winning author, but what else makes her tick? What's interesting about her?
Well, she's not just a writer, she's a bit of an adventurer herself. She loves climbing, especially on rooftops, and she even walks on tightropes.
Wow, seriously.
Yeah. It's no wonder heights and daring feats show up so much in her books.
She embodies that spirit of adventure that she writes about.
Exactly. And it comes through in her writing. It's not just about telling a good story. It's about pushing boundaries, challenging expectations, and reminding us that the world is full of wonder.
I love her analogy about reading being like doing a cartwheel.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect. It captures that sense of exhilaration you get from a good book, that feeling of your world being turned upside down.
It speaks to how powerful stories can be. They can transport you, change how you see things.
Absolutely. They can change you. We talked about other books readers might enjoy, but what about real-life adventures? What kinds of things might inspire them to close the book and go explore the world for themselves?
That's a good question. Well, if they love the Amazon, there are tons of documentaries, scientific expeditions, things like that that show how diverse it is and how important it is to protect it.
Right.
And if they're drawn to the idea of lost cities, there's the story of Machu Picchu in Peru. That was an amazing discovery.
Oh, definitely. And we can't forget about polar exploration. Ernest Shackleton's Antarctic journey, all the research going on in the Arctic, those are stories of pushing boundaries of endurance, of scientific discovery.
It's pretty incredible that even today, there are still places left to explore, mysteries to uncover.
It's true. And that's what makes the explorer so timeless. It taps into that desire to go beyond what we know, to test ourselves, to discover new things, both in the real world and in our imaginations.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. The characters, the themes, the author, even real-life expeditions. But before we wrap things up, I wanted to get your take on what makes The Explorer so special, like what really resonated with you.
You know, it's that balance between adventure and introspection. It's exciting, keeps you on the edge of your seat, but it also makes you think about deeper stuff.
Yeah.
Of human condition, our relationship with nature, how stories shape how we see the world. It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. It's like an escape, but also a mirror.
Yes, it reflects back on us, makes us confront things, maybe some uncomfortable truths about ourselves.
And our place in the world. It's definitely more than just a simple adventure story. It stays with you. So as we wrap up, I'm curious, what do you think is the most important message Rundell is sending to young readers? What do you hope they'll take away?
That's a tough one. But if I had to pick, I'd say it's about embracing curiosity and courage. Curiosity about everything, the world, different cultures, nature, and courage. Not just when facing danger, but also facing your own fears, your doubts.
It's like she's saying, don't be afraid to get lost, to try new things, to step outside your comfort zone and see what happens.
Exactly, because when you're uncertain, when you're challenged, that's when you really discover what you're capable of.
You learn what you're made of. You find out you can do things you didn't think you could.
And sometimes, the greatest adventures aren't found on a map, but inside ourselves. When we explore who we are, face our fears, that's when we can really unlock a whole world of possibilities.
I like that. That's what makes The Explorer such a great story. It reminds you that we all have that potential for adventure, for resilience, for connection, even in unexpected places.
In ourselves, in each other, in the natural world.
Well said. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into The Explorer. We've explored the characters, the themes, the author's point of view, and even touched on the allure of real-life expeditions.
And hopefully we've sparked some of that wonder and curiosity in you, our listener. Maybe even inspired you to check out The Explorer and embark on your own adventure.
So to our listeners, we say, go explore, get lost in a good book, discover new worlds, new ideas, and most importantly, discover new parts of yourself. Because within each of us, there's an explorer waiting to be awakened.
That thirst for knowledge, that yearning for adventure, that desire to connect with something bigger than ourselves. Embrace that spirit, and you'll find that the world is full of wonder just waiting to be discovered.